to be about 6 more seconds. The game is counting down, so I'll let you intro into Game 2 here of Wednesday Night StarCraft.
All right, so yes, this is in fact game two. Game one was not played. It will be between Impressive Play versus vV Gaming, Zerg versus Protoss, Ajax versus Hasu. As the game does get loaded, we'll see what these players will be doing and what openings we can expect in the Zerg versus Protoss. As I meant, or as we were talking about during the pre-game show, I guess, a Protoss normally can get up to two bases very quickly, while the Zerg has a little bit more of a difficult time trying to establish up that third base and get ahead as Ajax spawns on the top right-hand side of the map as the red Zerg. Meanwhile, Hasu is on the bottom left-hand side of the map as the green Protoss, a little bit of lag there, excuse me, as this game gets underway.
Yeah, once again, we have the Christmas colors as we get a little bit closer to that season, but Thanksgiving first, at least here in America, and then we'll move on to the other holidays. But Hasu with his traditional green, and it looks like Ajax is going to make things nice and easy for us with red. So quite big clashing colors, and we've got a cancel here on an extractor. So Ajax will immediately go up to 11 of 10, and we'll see whether he goes for some sort of 11 pool here, or whether he does get that Overlord. Yes, he does. So it's going to be more of a normal opening.
Yeah, much more of a normal opening. Even though you know exactly where your opponent has spawned, you don't really want to, go all in just quite yet. Hasu could easily go for that gateway, have a lot of time to respond after scouting with this one probe. The probe's going to take a look around. He is arriving to the party relatively early. He's not going to be able to see a spawning pool just quite yet. He may see an extractor first, as we don't know what opening Ajax is trying to go for. Hasu can do a little bit of disruption mining with the probe, try to hold up a mineral patch, as we do see a spawning pool coming in first from Ajax, so it looks like it will be pool followed by a hatchery.
Yeah, and I think a lot more Zerg are opening up pool first and just abandoning that gas. You can't really scout very early on in this matchup unless you send out a very early drone, so you don't know what kind of opening your Protoss opponent is going for. And against a lot of openings, if you go gas, that speed really wasted early on. You can't pressure a build like this where Hasu is going to have that complete wall off very early, and speed might give Ajax some map control, but it's going to be a lot better to get the pull down first and work on your economy. Scooch out just a few extra drones before you start in on that gas.
Yeah, and one interesting thing from Hasu already getting up his second assimilator before he even started his cybernetics course. So Hasu's going to be going in for a very heavy gas opening, perhaps not expanding for quite some time, as he is transferring 3 probes into this assimilator as well. I assume that we'll be seeing some sort of tech building right after that cybernetics core, even before a second gateway, as this one drone tries to figure out what's going down and what to expect.
Yeah, that drone definitely saw the timing on the gas and knows that it came up well before the cybernetics core. So we have an immediate warp gate and then the chrono on the first stalker for Hasu. So Hasu wants to get that stalker out on the field, try to pick off any drones, any overlords, or any lings that could be coming across, trying to scout for what he's going for. And then, as you mentioned, there's going to be quite a bit of tech coming from Hasu. He is still chrono boosting up his Nexus, so making sure that he gets that economy up and going, and getting on 2 gas that early can definitely hurt your probe count. So maybe investing in an extra chrono or 2 on probes can really help your saturation on minerals.
Yes, most definitely. We finally see Ajax establishing his hatchery around a 4-minute 30-second mark or 4-minute 20-second mark. It is a little bit delayed for Zerg, but he isn't too far behind. You can see that the metabolic boost is being researched, and Ajax is still going for additional gas, as he will need gas to train up those roaches. Taking a look at Hasu's base so far, Hasu looks like he's just going to be going very heavy sentry early on, and that was the reason why he got all of that extra gas. Not any sort of early tech play, but going to transition into a lot more gateways than I had originally thought, and try to perhaps save up a lot of energy on those sentries.
And it looks like Hasu's going to be expanding here, so he places down that low ground pylon, and he's saving up for that Nexus. It's going to be a little bit before he can get it up and going, and I'm not sure if this build is too well thought out. He's got his second and third gateway finishing right about the time that he wants to get that Nexus out, so it's going to be a little bit of a delay on the second and third gateway producing it all. So at the moment, not producing any units. His warp gate about to finish up, So he's going to get another round or two of units out here, and we'll see whether he decides to put on a little bit of sort of feint of a pressure here. I think Ajax with the Roach Warren already down would be able to deal with any sort of aggression.
Yeah, now that I look at the build a little bit more, I think Hasu actually has practiced this build pretty well. He didn't have that many minerals, but he had a large amount of gas, and he was able to warp in 3 sentries right behind it, and right as that Nexus was being completed and that warp gate tech. So you can see Hasu now sitting on 5 sentries, and he still is able to warp in additional stalkers as well. Those warp gates, the warp gate cooldown just finishing, so he is now still adding on it, and Hasu's army is looking rather good. 700 minerals and 600 gas.
Yeah, we already have an early Evo chamber down for Ajax. He's working on the +1 missile attack, so he's going to definitely be going Roaches, perhaps maybe even going Hydralisk, depending on what he scouts in the late game. We have Hallucination coming out for Hasu, so in conjunction with all those sentries, he's also going to be getting out Hallucination, a great way to scout. This very fast hallucinated Phoenix can get right in there. You don't have to worry about them dying to a Spore Crawler or an Overseer or a Queen or anything, just because they're so fast and just costing energy, they're practically free.
Yeah, practically free as those 2 Phoenixes now. Not quite sure why you need 2 hallucinated Phoenixes together. It's not like a hallucinated Phoenix needs a wingman. Hasu should probably split them up and try to get more scouting information, as Ajax is already at tier 2 and now droning up very heavily, getting up 9 drones right now. So he is taking the worker count lead. And I believe at some point Hasu needs to attack, say, within the next minute and a half in order to deal some damage and put a little bit of pressure down. Otherwise, all we're going to see is Ajax continuing to drone up and perhaps even try to take up that 3rd base.
I guess the question here is whether Ajax decides to go for some sort of timing here or take that 3rd base. Typical Zerg players like to macro and get on multiple bases before they go for any sort of timing, but if you have something figured out against a certain build, you can definitely go for a timing. He is going to have +1 finishing in about 25 game seconds. That's going to be ahead of the +1 of Hasu, who's been trying to, I'm not sure if he's chronoed that out for some sort of timing attack. He's still chronoing out probes on both of his Nexus, so he's going to get a very large probe count, perhaps catching up to his Zerg counterpart. It's 44 to 40 at the moment. Hasu just 4 probes behind.
Yeah, and this is looking good. As you know, Zerg buildings do require the sacrifice of a drone in order to do so. So any worker advantage that's that close is usually normally equalized as both players try to move out, get additional Evo chambers or assimilators. We'll see what's going to be happening here as Hydralisks are now being added to the group. Ajax going for Hydralisk, and there's really been a shift into Hydralisk as of late, and this has really come as a surprise to me. There really hasn't been that much of a balance change to them, but I'm starting to see them used much more effectively. Have you seen this change as well, Matron?
Yeah, I think players are starting to figure out safe timings for Hydralisk. Obviously, once Colossi and Great Number come out, Hydralisk don't fare so well against that AoE type of damage. But if you can find a timing, and he might find one right here, Hydralisk just destroy gateway units. Their DPS so much better than Roaches, and as long as you have some Roaches to do a little bit of tanking, the Hydralisks and Lings can get in there and just do a ton of DPS. We've got 1 Colossus about halfway done, no extended thermal lance, and Ajax does have the advantage in upgrades, so here comes the attack for Ajax.
Yeah, and this is a beautiful, beautiful play by Hasu. Hasu has laid down a lot of force fields and has been able to split the army on numerous occasions, and still doing so. Hasu really needs to start chrono boosting out some more warp gate tech, but props to Hasu for really fighting back what was a much, much larger attacking force, and I think Hasu will be able to hold this line and do very, very well.
Yeah, my concern there was Hasu lost all of his sentries, and he basically only took down Roaches for Ajax. Ajax is just now going to lose these Hydras, and he's going to be able to take down a number of Stalkers as well. So I feel like Ajax, even though Hasu defended that, came out ahead. It's 92 to 65. Ajax is going to be able to take a gold behind this, and now looks like he might be able to focus down that first Colossus. If that goes down, I think Hasu is going to be in a lot of trouble.
Yeah, it looks like the one Colossus was able to pull back just in time. Hasu has a slight worker advantage now, 48 over 45. Extended thermal lance not being chrono boosted out, even though Hasu does have the energy for it. The rocks have been destroyed over at the gold mineral patch, as you mentioned, but no hatchery has been placed down yet. So a little bit of an interesting timing as Ajax now going to throw down some creep in order to get a little bit more of a movement speed upgrade. And will this be enough? Husu about to get a second Colossus, but there's a lot of roaches.
Yeah, I think Ajax really needs this to pay off. Once the second Colossus, once Extended Thermal Lance comes out, I feel like Ajax is just going to be too far behind tech-wise up against Husu. Husu's +1 and +1 armor finish now, so he's ahead in upgrades. This is a bit of an all-in from Ajax. He is not expanded behind this. He needs to focus down the one Colossus that's out before it can do a ton of damage to the Roaches and the Hydras, and great positioning by Husu here with force fields and this very defensive position up against the Nexus with the help of those photon cannons, and Husu taking the advantage here, going to be able to take down a number of units as Ajax is forced to retreat with almost no follow-up to this.
Yeah, very, very interesting. We'll see what Husu now getting up his second Colossus again. He needs to get more Colossi in order to deal with that swarm. You can see a large number of roaches were just hatched, and finally a hatchery is being placed down, but almost simultaneously Husu doing the same thing as well, as both players with really strong game sense, knowing that an attack most likely would just fail, and now trying to expand and perhaps macro up behind it even further.
Yeah, I think once Husu gets out maybe 2 more Colossi, he really needs to push and try to take down that gold, prevent it from getting up and running. I think in the open field with the roach count that Ajax currently has, 3 or 4 Colossus could definitely take that down. Ajax has been behind now in workers. It is 52 to 43. He lost a ton of units there in that attack. Didn't really pay off by hurting the economy of Husu at all. And now Ajax is going to lose some important overlords, which were spreading creep here earlier, making that aggression possible. And Husu could push out and take another 2 overlords possibly on his way to that gold.
Yeah, Ajax does have a 126 compared to 107 food advantage, though, so that is going to be important to note. Army-wise, both sides about even in terms of minerals. You can see that Husu is slightly ahead in terms of gas, though, as we are now at 56 compared to 49 workers. Twilight Council now underway, so we should be getting level 2 or perhaps even level 3 weapons upgrade. And we got to remember that the weapons upgrade and the upgrades across the board for Protoss were reduced in the most recent patch. 25 gas less for level 2, and also the shields have also been greatly reduced as well.
Yeah, I think all the level 2 upgrades have been reduced in price, and that makes the upgrades flow a little bit better for Protoss. It's not quite as resource intensive. I actually think in this position, without a Spire down for Ajax, throwing down another robotics facility for double Colossi production would be good for Husu. Typically I'm not a big fan of just a ton of Colossi moving to victory, but if your opponent is not going to hard counter them, you really need to punish the fact that Colossi do so well against Hydras and against Roaches in large numbers.
Yes, most definitely. But right now, Husu is simply allowing Ajax to hold that gold mineral patch, and it's really evening up the economy as the gold minerals do mine out much more quickly and much more effectively per drone. As you can imagine, Husu does have some natural defense over here. He needs to get some more probes over here as well, as he looks like he may be finally trying to move out. But we are going into tunneling claws. We already have burrow, and that means that those roaches will be much more difficult to shoot down, especially with only 1 observer in the air.
Husu has invested in another 6 sentries, and that's 600 gas. We'll see how that pays off, whether another 2 Colossi would be better, or whether he's able to make those force fields really pay off against the Zerg player that does have burrow now. But burrow micro against force fields can be pretty APM intensive, and I feel like Husu needs to push out here before the Corruptors hit the field, perhaps waiting for his level 2 weapon upgrade, but I feel like he's lost the opportunity for a number of timings here, and it might be too late at this point.
Well, the Stalkers do have Blink, and that was my one concern if those Corruptors ever made it onto the field. And now it looks like the timing and the attack will finally go down. It looks like the hatchery will fall, and the force fields are already in place, so nicely done, making sure that that hatchery will come down. And now Ajax simply mining off of 2 bases with no additional hatcheries in sight for mining purposes, and I think Ajax may have just let that go a little bit too easily. It could have been taken down much earlier by Husu, but at least Husu did move out in order to take it down.
Well, Ajax lost the majority of his drones there, and obviously that hatch rate to prevent some mining, but I'm not sure whether he wanted to engage there in just an inefficient position. If you lose your entire army there as well as your third, you know, it could just be game over. At least at this point, he's got a little bit of a chance. He's got the Corruptors out, so he's going to be pushing out here, hoping to take down this army, prevent the gold, as he does push in here with all these roaches, trying to attack move into the Colossi, doing his best to focus those down with the Corruptors. It looks like a ton of roaches are going down, the Colossi doing a lot of damage, getting multiple kills, and we'll see the blink in here surrounding those roaches, really making it inefficient attacks, attacking all the different stalkers. And there's the GG from Ajax, and Husu able to defend against the early two-base pressure we hardly ever see from a Zerg player, going Roach and Hydra was Ajax, and able to take that game.